Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Rose and Ben. This one's not on the road. We'll have one coming up really soon that'll be back on the road. Rosie loves the road because we get to take the custom bus out, and like Brooks and Dunn and people like that. Rosie's, she likes it. She likes it. And our touring is we're looking at the next stop, Rosie. They want us to go to Freedom for their museum thing out there. They got something coming up with that, and so we're thinking about pulling your bus on the main street of Freedom. You think that'd be all right? I just wish we had the cameras today. Rosie looks just ravaging. What in the world? What have you done, girl?
I've dyed my hair.
Well, that's pretty direct. I think I'd have probably come at that a little different angle, but yeah, okay. It was successful. It was. So, harvest is, as you'll hear. Sage and I worked on the combine yesterday and did some recording, and you'll be hearing those throughout the day. Harvest, I think, is overall about 70% done, and people that had wheat are saying, well, could have been worse, which is not the same as, wow, this is wonderful, but it's better than it being worse. So we celebrate all victories, no matter how large or small. We have guests this morning. Our first guest today, the superintendent of Alva Schools, Mr. Bashirs. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Ben. Appreciate you having me out here.
Well, you're very welcome. You've got an important issue going on, so bring us up to speed.
Well, the general election is next Tuesday. It's the main primary election for kind of everything. We have a bond issue on the ballot, looking at building a new elementary school. So
Now at the digital sign here in the parking lot of McClure's agency, there are some renditions of. I think that's what that is. Are they renditions of what it might look like?
yeah, those are the renderings that the architects drew up, what the exterior of the building would look like. Maybe a interior shot of a classroom, kind of a general idea of what the design is.
So, okay, okay, keep me going. That's going to consolidate some building.
So the new elementary school will be pre-K through, pre-kindergarten through fifth grade. Currently, we have 3 separate buildings, Washington, Lincoln, and Longfellow, that is spread out across town. Each building containing two grades. With structural engineer reports that we've had, at Lincoln, we'll be closing that building next year and moving those kids into some portable buildings behind the middle school. They've been talking about this bond for several years, putting something together as part of the strategic plan that they started in 2018. So it's all coming to a head after all those conversations and that planning. But it'll be consolidating all the kids into one building, instead of being spread out across town, giving our teachers, an opportunity to collaborate a whole lot more. Consolidating some of our intervention services that we have to provide, and those types of things.
So you say you're closing what school?
Lincoln. It's the one. It's our 4th and 5th grade elementary that's out on 281 south of the university.
Rosie and I were talking about that. Rose, isn't that the conversation we had, that we didn't know the elementaries were divided up?
Yeah, we thought they were all self-contained, but no, you might refresh that.
So how's that work?
So in the mid 80s, they were self-contained at that point, Rosie. They switched the model, like I said, in the mid 1980s to pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, and 1st grade is at Washington, 2nd, 3rd grades at Longfellow, and 4th and 5th grades out at Lincoln.
And Lincoln's the one that has to be shut down.
Yeah, Lincoln was built on the side of a hill there south of the university. In 1962, when they built the building, construction was delayed 6 weeks at that point because of the water drainage issues they were having there. There's been several things that have happened in the last 60 years to try.
Yeah, right. In the last, 60 years?
In the last 60 years. I think it was 1984. They tried to install a bunch of French drains and things like that to move the water away from the building. But the reality is water runs downhill and it's running underneath that building and washing all the dirt out from under the foundation. So structurally, the floors are sinking. Some of that, we were advised to move out a part of the building until some more remediation could be done. But we're seeing a lot of structural problems throughout the building, top to bottom. And this is why the board made the decision to close the building and move us into portables for the time being.
Just off the top of the head, can you give us an idea what the projected enrollment is in the next 5 or 6 years?
So our enrollment stayed pretty flat for the last 15 years. Through the oil field, I mean, you had a couple of years that got a little higher and a couple of years that dipped down. I think it's important to look at our elementary enrollment because we're talking about an elementary school. And we've stayed just pretty flat, up or down 20 kids here and there, but for the most part, we're right around 500 or 600 kids total.
But projected, you don't have anything that kind of projects?
Well, the best projections we can make is to look at what the history's been. Yeah, so I can go back 10 years and it's just been a flat line. Our enrollment stayed really, really steady for the last 10 years for sure, back at least 15 that I've looked at. So it's hard to tell the future.
Well, that's right. Can you tell me what this is going to do to my taxes?
So it's a $22 million increase. So when we talk about this 29.5% increase, that sounds like a really big increase, but because our millage is small compared to a lot of places. So if it was a if we were at a neighboring district, their millage is 101, where ours is 74. So if we were in that district, that 22 mil increase would only be 21%. So it's because of the way percentages work. The 30% increase is as a comparison to the 74 mils that we currently pay. So the 22 mil increase would put us kind of in line where a vast majority of the school districts in the state are as far as bond millages. In 2019, they didn't renew the bond that they had on the books at that time or try to increase or anything, and so they let our millage drop back because the oil field was flowing hard at that point, and there was a lot of revenue. So they wanted to give the taxpayers a break. Well, the oil field hadn't been here for several years, and those types of things, and constitutionally, the only way we can do capital improvement projects like this is through a capital improvement bond. So that's why we're looking at that at this point. So it'd be the 22 mil increase per $1,000. I think is $295 a year. So.
Rosie takes care of all the statistics around here. I just do the pictures. I like the pictures, the rendering. If I'm saying that properly, that's a really good looking place.
Yeah, it's a modern building for sure. The design is in separate pods. So we talk about these 3 elementary schools being separated by age group, and the kids would still be separated by pod in the same age groups going into that building to keep some of that tradition that we have there. But still put them in the same buildings where we can share those resources, special ed teachers and counselors and things like that.
But now I have to think, I've been in the line before to pick up the kids. It makes a difference. So the pickup is going to be centralized now or with the new version, where now I maybe as a parent have to pick up a couple of places, maybe even 3 places, depending on the ages of my kids, right?
Yeah, that's one thing we've heard from some of the parents that have kids at multiple sites. So if you have a first grader and a second grader, you're across town trying to pick them up at almost the same time. So this would consolidate everybody. One of the concerns is traffic. So where the building, there's a 60-acre wheat field across the highway from where G&G Furniture and VAP are. We've been donated 10 acres out of that 60. So some of the initial drawings had it right there in the corner. That the building could actually move east off the highway. He's donated 10 acres out of that 60 to us. So that 10 acres could shift around a little bit along Harper Road. It'll put more traffic out there at one time. We've built a loop all the way around, private drive all the way around the building. There are 3 exits to the building. There's one central entrance at the front that will have all the security things that's so important in schools today. But there's 3 exits, so the age groups could exit separately and have multiple pickup lines with that private street, so to speak, that we have going around the building to alleviate some of the traffic.
It is a busy proposition. I mean, you're taking 3 locations. You're shutting one down next year, no matter what, right? Or this coming school year.
Yeah, that's correct. Lincoln will be shut down if we can get all the portables here and everything up and running this summer.
I wouldn't see any reason for that, but I don't know. Would tariffs play a role in that?
Tariffs are playing a role in everything right now, Ben.
Yeah, they are.
And I think that's one of the reasons we went ahead and pulled the trigger on doing a bond now. Because you look at what construction costs have done in the last 5 years since COVID.
Whoa.
And it's only going to get worse. So the longer we wait, the more expensive it's going to be. If we did phases on it, initially it may be a little cheaper to just do a piece of the building, but when you project that out, maybe 20 or 25 years to finish the project, it's going to catch up to itself just because of tariffs and everything you just said.
Yeah. Nothing is headed downward, except my attitude.
It's about the only thing that goes down anymore.
That's it. Man, thank you for coming out and joining us. I know that you've got, as my daddy would say, lots of irons in the fire, lots of stuff to do.
there's lots of irons in the fire. The main thing is we're trying to do what's best for kids. We want to educate the youth of the future. They're our future. So that's the priority. That's what's out in front of everything. I know these decisions aren't always the best for everybody, but we're trying to find the plan that's the best for the majority. So.
And we decide this part of it quickly.
Yeah, so early voting starts today. Started today. I think it's 8 to 6 today and tomorrow, and then 8 to noon, or noon or 1 on Saturday, and then the general election on Tuesday. So
whatever you do, go vote.
That's the one thing I would encourage everybody to do. Whatever your feeling is, one way or the other, just go vote. We think this is the right plan. If it's not, then we need to find the right plan. But the only way we'll know is if we hear from everybody. So go vote.
That's a great way to look at it. It really is. Jeremy Brashears, the superintendent of Alva Schools, on Rosie and Ben.
I want you to let him tell you about his car.
So, Jeremy, before you go, Rosie has very quietly asked that you tell me about your car.
Well, I impressed Rosie when I came in. I'm driving a 2000 Mustang. My pickup got caught up in a hailstorm about a month and a half ago, and it's in the body shop right now. And the only vehicle I had available was the car my daughters drove through high school. It's a little 2000 Mustang. I'll tell you, Rosie, new cars drive a lot different than old cars.
Better or worse?
What?
Better or worse?
Well, new cars are a lot more comfortable than old cars.
Size is somewhat of a factor here, Mr. Brashears. Would you agree with that?
You know, I am one of those corn-fed linemen from the 90s. Those Mustangs aren't very big.
But I know that one will run like a banshee because I've seen your daughter running it through the gears. Oh, wait a minute.
Those are probably stories she doesn't want me to know.
Just kidding. If you're listening, just kidding. Just thank you, sir, for coming in. We appreciate everything that you do. Folks, if you want to see the renderings of the proposed, they're on the digital billboard in at 131 East Oklahoma Boulevard. We will pause for the needed pause to try to gather up enough money to pay the light bill, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Rose and Ben on KALV.
Beatles New Beginnings Nursing Center is proud to offer comprehensive care solutions for those who matter most. From rehabilitation and palliative care to skilled nursing and long-term care, Beatles is committed to providing comfort, dignity, and peace of mind. Now, with a second location, the Beatles family continues its long-standing tradition of excellence, serving the people of Northwest Oklahoma with the same compassion and dedication they've been known for. Come by and see them at 720 North Share Boulevard in Alva. Beatles New Beginnings Nursing Center, your care, your comfort, your community.
This is Rose and Ben on KALV.
It's Rosie and Ben. The rodeo doesn't have anything to do with rodeo, but someday it might. So we got to keep that in the title. Someday it might. Rodeo is big where we are. Northwestern Oklahoma State University, huge rodeo people, which, by the way, Cade Kennedy, switching your production, your producer director role from here to up on the hill as the associate SID of NWOSU. Is national rodeo going on right now, or does the SID department know the answer to that?
Yeah, we've actually got the rodeo stuff starts June 14th out in Casper, Wyoming. So we'll have a few kids on their way there.
So we ought to run out and cover that, you think?
You can have fun with that, Ben.
Either that, or let's do the parade, the K101 parade in Woodward Saturday. That'd be closer.
That's a lot closer. That gets you your rodeo feel.
Okay, we'll be there. Join us. Is that 10 a.m. at rodeo, or a parade? I mean, or is it an afternoon? We need to find out.
It's early.
It's early. Who would schedule a parade in the middle of the night? 10 a.m. for heaven's sakes. Jamie. Rosie, come on down.
Okay, our next guest is from one of my favorite institutions, the Alva Technology School. They're always over there to pick me up when I wreck my bicycle or wreck the trash can. And not only that, they do a lot of wonderful things. I was at an award assembly and I was taken back by all of the good things that are happening in that Votech school. We have with us Haley Reagan. Her title is Ag and Small Business Coordinator, and she's here to tell us a little bit about the Votech, and I'm probably going to have questions to ask her, but again, this is a great thing, so listen up.
Yes, thanks, Rosie. I appreciate that. I am the Ag and Small Business Coordinator, so mostly working on the adult side of things, and that kind of brings up the first thing that maybe we should talk a little bit about is that this fall, our catalog, which has historically come out in the mail like a paper magazine, is actually going to be going digitally.
No.
So later in July, you'll be receiving a postcard in the mail that you can scan a QR code and go ahead and pull it up on your phone. I think one of the great things with that is that it helps us as classes pop up and evolve to be able to advertise those a little bit more, whereas that paper magazine, when it comes out, we can't make edits and changes to that. Sorry. And so I think it'll be a good way for us to add in some new things that maybe we haven't had before or display content a little bit differently.
Does that mean I can see it on my telephone?
Yes, you can see it from your phone, your computer, your laptop. You can see it anywhere, and you can pull it up. So if you're not sure, you're having coffee with your friends, and you want to say, did you see this class? You can pull it up right there on your phone. You don't have to have your catalog there with you.
Well, that wouldn't be so bad. These are really two jolts. My bank statement quit poking holes in it so I could put it. That was terrible. And now this.
All the banks changing ownership, changing names, changing things around on us, aren't they? At least you're still getting a paper statement, right? I think do you have more questions? Yeah. And then a couple other things we have going on. Right after school finished, we had MASH camp, which was about 50, 60 kids. And that camp is for students who've just finished 6th grade. And it's to kind of teach and educate them a little bit about health career opportunities that are available. They come, they spend some time on the Northwestern campus, and then they come out to the Technology Center as well. It's a great opportunity for exposure that they may not see elsewhere. Another program that I'm really, really passionate about and help out with is Career Academy. We just wrapped that up a couple of weeks ago as well. That's for students who've just completed 7th grade, and there's 20 of those kids. And that program is more so exploring careers across Northwest Oklahoma. The first day they come and we tour different businesses around our Technology Center district. The second day they do some community service. And then the third day they have a mentor activity where we bring in different career professionals from around our district to meet with the students one-on-one. The really cool thing with that program is then they come back one half day each year thereafter, and they get a $1,000 scholarship.
Wow. Now, who's eligible for this? Adults and students?
Just students who have just completed 7th grade. Melinda goes around and visits with all of those students at all of our sending schools. She gives them an application. If they turn in an application to be eligible to then participate, each one of those applicants interview, and then they're selected from there. This year we had 20 kids, so if all 20 of them complete, that would be $20,000 in scholarship that would be available that they can use for anything. It doesn't have to be for higher education. It could be for technical, trade, anything.
You mean it doesn't have to go for the enrollment?
Not necessarily. If they were going into electrical field and they needed tools or they needed FD clothing or whatever it might be, they could use it on for that. We're there for the vocational education and need to help support and promote the trades as well.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. And like this year, we exposed the kids to manufacturing and healthcare and a couple of ag-based businesses. They got to tour at the retread shop and see all different things that are available and have question and conversation of what kind of education do I need to have? Does this pay my bills to work here? How long would I need to go to school? What type of degree do I need? Do I even need to go to school? And so it teaches them what all is there and available.
Did you say you were giving 20 of those?
Mm-hmm. This year, it's based off of sponsorship. So each year it depends on the sponsorship. Some years maybe there's 19 or 18. And it started, I believe, 18 years ago-ish, 18, 20 years ago, and they started with just a few kids, and they've built that up. So it's a small commitment of time in comparison to the reward that could come with it.
That's terrific. Okay, what else can you tell us about?
when we were visiting before we came in here, you asked about when our next CDL school would be. So our next CDL class on our Alva campus will be run October 5th through November 11th. We have spots available if anyone's interested in participating in that. You can call out and visit with Jessica.
What you're calling a CDL class is those great big semis come in, and yeah, it's really neat to see those. And they'll be able to get their CDL at the end of that.
That is correct. They can test for that, and I'm several have come out of jobs before. I think that they've finished, and others have jobs right away. Just there's plenty of job available. Do you have a question too?
Oh, I have tons of questions in so many areas. But we're talking about CDLs here. The CDL program, I guess, moves around because a guy that I know just got his CDL, but he got it through the Fairview campus, though he lives in Alva. That's okay to do? Well, apparently it is.
Yes, we have a class that will begin later this summer at our Fairview campus, and we share that in partnership with several schools, and so it rotates around. It may have been our last class in Alva. Maybe there wasn't space or room for him to get in, so he waited to go to the next one. That's the next closest location. So same thing, maybe there's someone from Fairview that wants to come to Alva, or Woodward that wants to come over to Alva. They're completely eligible.
And I know that there's a cost factor. I mean, you got to pay to play, no matter what it is that you're doing. But it looks to me like it is very, very economically priced. And then when you consider the pay that you're gonna drive into, no pun intended, when you get this CDL, it offsets the cost just really well.
Yeah, I can't quote that exact cost. Not necessarily my area, but you're exactly right. The biggest thing on the CDL is the time commitment factor for that 6-ish weeks where they're in. That's their job for that period of time. So some folks aren't able to do that. Others have added that CDL instead of just driving. Locally they can drive a little bit farther with their farm products and different things.
That's impressive. How much of your programs, of your total agenda, continues through the summer? I mean, you're not down at all in the summer, huh?
Not from our side, the adult and career side. Scott Brown's getting ready to have some leadership classes that go on. We'll have a couple other partnership classes for business and development and things like that, but not really. There's a group of us that are there all year round, and if someone calls and needs or wants something, we're happy to help them.
And a beautiful campus. The same with Fairview. I had never had an opportunity and never really needed to, but I got to tour the Fairview campus a month or so ago. It's not as impressive as Alva, but it is a very impressive campus.
Yeah, they're upkept very well. We offer a lot of cool programs and technology and different things than you see in a lot of other areas in the world.
So, Rosie, we've got all kinds of things going on in Alva. It's kind of like Jody says on the Chamber Chat show. Stop saying there's nothing to do in Northwest Oklahoma. For gosh sakes, there's stuff going on everywhere. And up on the hill, they're having summer courses, and you've got, as you mentioned, a bunch of stuff going on in the summer.
Tonight we also have Network at Night, which is for our professionals group. We'll meet at the brewery, and there's a judicial candidate meet and greet thanks to the Woods County Bar Association. So our candidates will be down there to have casual conversation, meet, talk, different things, and that's from 5 to 6:30.
I was thinking about that. I was talking with, I guess with Jody about that yesterday. It's not really necessary to have a forum. I mean, all three of these guys are vying for the job of associate district judge. So there's no way to say, well, I'm going to do it differently than those guys are going to do it. And that makes me better because it's the law, and you're going to be following the law as the associate district judge. All three of these last names are very well known in the community. So to square off in some kind of a forum doesn't make any sense. But this really does, just to kind of walk and chat and see your friends and talk to the candidates along the way.
Yeah, make it casual and not to say informal, but a little more informal hangout. The brewery opens up a great spot to allow for that and doesn't put a lot of expectation other than come and have a good time and enjoy and be social. And that's the goal of our professionals network group, is that same thing, have conversation.
We appreciate you coming out and updating us Melinda, she did sparkling, as you can tell. You think Melinda is auditing the course on the other end of the line here?
Maybe, possibly so. She should be if she's not, right?
Exactly. You should be taking notes, Melinda. We appreciate you so much. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to pause for just a moment on Rose and Ben. I'm just going to admire Rose's new hairdo, and we'll be back after I get done admiring it in about a minute. Come on back to Rose and Ben. It's never a dull moment.
It's Rose and Ben on KALV. Let's talk about your future. Are you looking for a career change or possibly training in computers, health careers, automotive, cosmetology, digital design, electrical trades, welding, or biomedical sciences? At Northwest Technology Center, we offer these programs for adults, high school, and homeschool students from Alene Clio, Alva, Canton, Cherokee, Fairview, Freedom, Ringwood, and Winoka. Call to enroll today at 580-327-0344 in Alva or 580-227-3708 in Fairview. Northwest Technology Center is preparing students for success in education, careers, and life. This is Rose and Ben on KALV.
Welcome back to Rose and Ben, the Radio Rodeo. Speaking of rodeo, Cade Kennedy and I and the K101 crew will be on hand in Woodward. We think that rodeo starts at 10 a.m., so Cade and I'll probably just sleep downtown because having a rodeo, a parade in the middle of the night, I don't know. But then if you have it at 2 o'clock, it's going to be 103 on the back of a on the back of a sweating horse. So maybe 10 a.m. is going to be okay. But join us over there. We will live stream it on KALV, and we'll live stream it for K101 also. It's a good time. A good time will be had by all. And speaking of rodeo, this guy has to know something about rodeo. This is a strange deal. And I tell Rosie this all the time. I love this show because I think I know stuff, but then I find out I don't know stuff. Every time we interview somebody, I go, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I probably know 50 people that know this guy and know him well, but I don't think I've ever met you. And Mike Simpson, right?
Yes, sir.
You go by Mike or Michael?
Well, I've been called a lot worse, so either one of those are fine. So,
okay. So strangely enough, I saw a one-sheeter, and I've heard about Freedom. It's called Freedom Gate Boys Ranch. Is that right?
yes, sir.
I've heard about it before. I saw a one-sheeter on it in a window a couple of weeks ago, and I mentioned it just as I was looking at this one-sheeter. I said, I'd like to talk to those people. And the woman said, well, Sid Judd knows them. And Sid is the acting mayor or the interim mayor in Winoka and a member of the what are people on that are on a board?
City council?
Yeah, city council. I knew it was a very difficult word, but we came up with it. So I called Sid and I said, I'm told that you know about this. And he goes, well, I know a guy that knows about it a lot better. So then I learned what the arrangement is, how you know this guy. So you met Sid Judd some time ago.
Yeah, I met Sid. It'd probably be about 17 and a half years ago when I asked him to date his daughter. And he said yes, which was a real positive thing. And we've been married, well, not me and Sid, me and his daughter, been together, goodness be, 16 years in August.
Well, congratulations, man. I'm sure there's some people up around Kiowa that lost some money on that.
Well, some people in my own family that did too. They were betting on her pretty hard, but me, they kind of gave a side eye to. So, so everybody I mentioned that I know around your area, you went, oh yeah, he's one of my best friends. So we went through the Goodnow family and Paul Harbaugh and right on down the line. Oh, yeah. No, that's a great community down in Kiowa. I've lived there my whole life, and my folks own a couple businesses there in Kiowa. And yeah, as soon as I hung up with you, I texted Justin. I said, hey, you know this guy? And he had some very nice things to say about you. So you got that going for you.
That's good. That's good. So plug your parents' businesses.
Simpson's Hardware, they're on Main Street in Kiowa, and that's my brother actually is a plumber and electrician there, and my mom runs the store. And then Kiowa Welding, they're used to be in the old New Holland dealership, is my dad's crane company.
Here's a strange one for you. There's a Mike Simpson in Winoka. Mike is a commercial pilot, but he put in a hardware store in Winoka. It's no longer the veterinary is in that business now, but Mike Simpson in Winoka in the hardware, Mike Simpson in Kiowa in the hardware.
Yeah, I met him at a Friends of the NRA banquet. They pulled a name out of the hat to win a rifle and said Mike Simpson. And we both stood up, and they said which one? They said the one out of Winoka, and I went darn it, and then went up and shook his hand. So yeah, I know Mike out there. He's a good guy.
Rosie, we now know Mike Simpson. This one.
Do you have anybody that's in the dozer business?
Used to be my grandpa, Roger Simpson, out west of Medicine Lodge. And when I say used to be, I think when he turned 85, he said it was time to sell his dozer and to stop building ponds and terraces. But yeah, that's my grandpa.
Okay, he came out and did some work for it was fantastic on the ranch. That was before it was 85, I guess.
Yeah. He said at 85 it was just about time to hang it up, and that's only been about 3 years ago now.
And that's your grandpa?
Yes, sir. That's my grandpa.
Let's get to this deal. I'm interested in this so much. The Freedom Gates. Now, if you're listening on the radio, it's two words: freedom, like Freedom, Oklahoma, and gates, like you're riding on the passenger side, so you got to open the gates. Freedom Gates Boys Ranch. How and what and why?
Sure. I met a guy who went back in 2011 named Dennis Blake, and he was the principal out at Medicine Lodge at the school. And he had retired, and I met him shortly after he retired, and he was doing foster care at the time. And he moved down to Hazleton to the old school there, and I met him. I had just been married about 6 months, and he said, "Man, I think Lord's given me a vision to start a boys ranch." He'd worked in a lot of prison ministry and worked with a lot of guys that were really struggling, and said, "Man, if somebody could have helped me out when I was younger, I may not be here." And that really inspired him to say, "Man, let's start working with younger kids." And I met him, and he told me, kind of the vision the Lord gave him. And I said, "Well, how hard can that be?" And about 15 years, I'm sure glad I didn't know how hard it was going to be when we started. I'd have probably run, but that was 15 years ago, and that's kind of what spiraled it off to what we have now. And I did a lot of volunteer work up until 2019. I took off one day from work from 2011 to 2019 to help him build the boys ranch. And then 2019 November is when me and my wife actually moved in full time to be house parents out there for kids.
You say out there. Where is out there?
Well, surprisingly enough, Freedom Gates Boys Ranch is not located in Freedom, Oklahoma, and I've had to make that distinction a lot. We are located in Hazleton, Kansas. It's the thriving metropolis that's about 6 miles past Kiowa as you head out to Anthony. There's 92 people that live in Hazleton, and the Boys Ranch makes up about 22% of that.
This is in the old school.
Yes. So we've got our campus kind of spreads out around town. We've got about a third of the old school that we own. We renovated out, and that's the house where me and my wife, my 2 kids, and 9 other boys live. And then about on the other side of town, be the far east side of town, is the rest of our campus where we have we built a new school out there, an 8,000 square foot building out there. So we do education out on campus. We've got 20 acres out there where we do our farm and ranch program, and we teach horsemanship and cattle work and anything ag related that we can possibly get our guys involved in. And then we've actually got another piece of property about a mile from that where we've got a big round top shop, and we teach trades and mechanicking and welding and plumbing and electrical and just anything that we can teach these young men to give them some skills.
That sounds absolutely phenomenal. You know what I mean. How many do you have?
So right now, our capacity in the one house right now is 11 kids, and that's what we have right now. We actually are in construction right now, building some transitional living. So I'll explain just a little bit on the kind of kids that we're working with. So we started out working in foster care, where we were getting kids from the state, and I really felt called to move away from that back in 2016. And so we are what they call private placement. So we get applications in for kids directly from their parents, grandparents, and guardians. That the way that I say it is like, these are kids that they're really struggling behavioral wise or education. A lot of kids that maybe have been bounced around from parents to grandparents to uncles, and just really haven't been able to find a place just because of a lot of behavioral struggles. And so they come out to our campus and they live with us on site for no less than a year and a half, a lot of times up to 2 years. And I've had kids that come in at 11, 12 years old and will stay up until they're even 19, 20 years old, depending on their situation.
What are there actual top? Is there an actual? You can't be. You got to be at least this age, and you can't be over this age type of deal.
So yes, we started out by kind of putting our cap at about 12, and that was kind of our arbitrary number, of bringing in at 12. And then I got an application for a kid that was 11, and I'm like, man, it's really hard for me to say, sorry, kid, you're going to have to live in a terrible situation for another 6 months till you can come in. So I'm like, all right, well, let's bring him in. And my wife's like, all right, Michael, we're bringing in 11. And then I had a 10-year-old kid that applied, and I'm like, well, I can't really tell that 10-year-old kid to wait 3 months. But I have been capped at 10. So 10's the youngest that we've brought in. And as far as coming into the ranch, about 16 is about as old as we go for their intake. But again, as long as they're there and they're continuing to work, they don't have to, there's not really an age out part of the program. And that's kind of what we're working on right now. So,
yes. What about these kids? Do they, for their schooling, can they get a diploma?
So back in 2020, when everybody in the nation became a homeschooler, is when we started. That was fun. When we started Freedom Gates Christian Academy, and so Freedom Gates Christian Academy is a more of a homeschool style curriculum, but and a lot of it is we've got kids that are coming in. I'd say the average age of kid that comes in right now is about 13, and after they're done with assessment testing, they are reading between a second and third grade level and doing math at sometimes a first and second grade level. And most of that is just because, when you get behavioral struggles, your educational need always seems to take a back seat to your behavioral need. And so we really saw our calling in this, say, man, let's find out exactly where these guys are at educationally. Let's put them exactly where they can be successful, because if they can't read, remember what they read, and do basic math, they're not going to be able to make it in life. So they come in and we work them through our homeschool curriculum, but then at the finish line of their education at the Boys Ranch is either they go on to continue to get their GED, or they, if they're planning on just going to a trade school or going into the military or the workforce, if their goal is to go to college, then we prep them for their ACTs so that they're ready to move on into a college curriculum.
So you don't issue a high school diploma?
We have our diploma for Freedom Gates Christian Academy, but we're not an accredited school with the state of Kansas.
Okay, but you're prepping them to test and go forth.
Correct.
Do you have a lot of people that come around and say, hey, thanks?
Yeah, it's it's been 15 years for me doing this, and the amount of calls and text messages and, hey, I'm just going to swing by, from a lot of kids in their 20s, some now in their 30s, guys that come down with their wives and kids and come and show their kids around the place where they spent a lot of years, or that's a pretty regular conversations and experience, and that's really rewarding, because for our program, especially in our trades, we're really big on trying to get the boys involved with helping build our campus. So when we're building corrals, we take that as a welding project in our program. And when we're building a building, most of our projects, the boys have run the electrical, the boys put the plumbing in. I'd bring in different licensed professionals that the kids are shadowing. They learn hanging sheetrock, cabinetry. We had a cabinet maker came in and put on a week-long class to build all the kitchen cabinets. So when the kids are, older and they're coming down, this is a place that they help build. I mean, they've really got some ownership of it, and that's really exciting.
How many do you have teaching?
Well, for our classroom, we've got one teacher that runs all grades and all subjects, and we really appreciate Mr. Matthew Thomas. His family's actually from here in town, and he was a public school teacher in Oklahoma for a number of years. And he called me up about 4 years ago and said, "Michael, been a teacher for a while, and I really like to teach math and Jesus. Do you guys need a teacher?" And I said, "By golly, I can sure do that." And he's been with me almost 4 years now, and just a wonderful man. And I come in and substitute from time to time, but they got to be pretty desperate if they're asking me. So
I got to break over the boundary here just a little bit to give you an analogy to ask a question. I have 2 daughters and a son. My oldest daughter, I got divorced when my son and my youngest daughter were in the crib. So between the ages of 14 and 16, my blonde daughter, for 20 of those 24 months, she was either incarcerated in a juvenile facility, or I'd get a report from a police officer in Oklahoma City. "I saw your daughter in such and such area," kind of keeping an eye on her. So I'm in counseling during that time, and a lot on either side of that time too. And the old shrink said to me, "Benny, the difference between a wayward adolescent and a sociopath is that the wayward adolescent may grow out of it. The behavior is about the same. Your job, Benny, is to hate the behavior, love the person, and hang on for the ride. And sometime in the future, she's going to walk out of that black hole that's her life right now and go, 'What is everybody so excited about?'" Which is exactly what happened. Now, compute that to the other side. This is a boys' ranch. They're in the toughest time of their lives as far as rebellion is concerned, as far as policy following is. It's not all things are just wonderful kind of life. How do you handle that?
Well, that's a really good question, and I appreciate your testimony on that, because that's really important for people to hear that are in that dark spot, as there is another side of it. There is something past that, Lord willing. You know, there were times when me and my wife, we first started out house parenting in a small house, and me and my wife and 2 kids lived in one small bedroom, and 5 boys lived in the rest of the house. And there were definitely times where we'd lay down at night, and I'd say, "Well, honey, we've got a house full of kids. They all heard I love you today. They all heard about Christ today. They all got full bellies, and they're all safe. And that's just going to have to be enough," because the rest of the day was just terrible. I mean, it was really, really hard. And there were times as a parent where that was just life. I was sitting there saying, "I know what I'm doing is right, and I wish I could, but I don't get to control other people's behaviors." And so but you know, the one thing that me and my wife and our team have all really talked about is I always want to make sure that there's never a time that a kid, even if they left the program and graduated, or if something bad happened and they had to leave early, that they knew that they couldn't call and they would get an answer, and they would get counsel, and they would get help. And I did that when I had a kid who was with me for about 4 years, and he graduated the program, left at 18, and called me about 11 months later, and he was strung out pretty hard on drugs and made just a ton of terrible choices. And he just was in tears and said, "Michael, I just want to come home." And I said, "Well, coming home may not be all right, but you know what? I'll be at where you're at in about an hour and 10 minutes. And we went and picked him up and got him help. And I always just like, Lord, I'm so happy that he knew that he could call. And I think that's a really important thing with your kids, or kids that, you know, you're working with, even in counseling. Is like, I always want to make sure they know that they can call, and they're not going to get a line of "I told you so's" and a line of "if you would only's," but they'd always have that person to call, because not everybody's got that.
You just made me remember one of the old shrink's tenets, and that was the one that I really love. I gave you before, is hate the behavior, love the child. And you just reminded me that he said, no matter how tough it gets, Ben, if she's talking to you, by some communication, always end it with "I love you." Don't ever end it any other way than "I love you."
Yeah, well, and no, I 100% agree that that's so important because, for kids in that age, they're boys that desire to be men. They don't know how. With the almost 70 kids that we've worked with, as far as active biological fathers, I could probably count about 4 out of 70 kids that actually had biological fathers active in their life. I had some really good adopted dads that we've worked with, probably another half a dozen of those. But, for our deal, you got a bunch of boys that are trying to be men that have no idea what that looks like. And they're getting educated by the world and by their own emotions. And so part of that age group that they're in is part of it is I'm kind of going out on my own, and I'm starting to individuate from my family, and is what's right and wrong is wrong actually, or only because somebody told me it was. And so there's a lot of emotion, a lot of big feelings, and a lot of exploring that goes on in those ages. And without a really, for boys, I think specifically, and I'm sure for daughters as well, without a really good, secure, man to help guide them and be able to say, hey, I'm not here to force you what to do, but I've walked this path and I'll walk it alongside you and help you over some bumps, or at least help pick you up when you fall, is so important. And there's just so many young men that don't have that right now.
I heard about you or about Freedom Gates Boys Ranch from a guy, I can't remember who it was, a couple of years ago. He couldn't have an appointment with me because he was doing a cookout, I think, as a fundraiser for Freedom Gates Boys Ranch. Does that sound right, or am I on another trail here?
Well, it's funny you should mention that, because that is our annual, we do an annual appreciation hamburger feed, because we are a 100% community supported organization. We don't get any state funding. We don't charge our parents any tuition to be out there, because the families that need help most time can't afford it. The worst thing you can say as a Christian is you can't get help because you don't have money. So we really rely on our community a lot. So every July, normally the weekend after the 4th of July, we do a big appreciation hamburger feed, and then we do a live auction afterwards as a fundraiser. And actually that's coming up here in a few weeks, July 11th, over at in Medicine Lodge at the Heritage Center. We're doing this will be our 10th annual appreciation hamburger feed and live auction. So yes, that does sound accurate, and I appreciate you bringing it up.
So can we be a part of that, the little radio station here? Can we help in any way?
Oh, absolutely. What do you want to do? Want to grill hamburgers?
Let's see. How about we tell people about grilling hamburgers?
That would be wonderful. Yeah, no, it's a really amazing thing. When we started with our first one that we did, I think we had about 45 people show up, which was wonderful. It was in Kiowa. It's kind of a new thing and we raised about $11,000 that first year. This last year we had about 230 people showed up and raised a little over $65,000. And we get a lot of local businesses, a lot from here in Alva and Woods County, Alfalfa County, Barber, all the way up to Hutchinson, Kansas, that different companies and businesses donating different items to be auctioned off. And it really is a neat time, because the boys are really involved with that. They help serve the hamburgers. They're helping deliver out auction items, and they get to see, for kids that have really, their reputation hasn't been something that they've been too proud of. They're always a kid in trouble at the school or the place where the cops are at, or all this. To be able to see a community of a few hundred people gather around them just to support them is so encouraging. So yes, absolutely. Advertise all you want.
Okay. We're glad to do it, man. It is great to have you here. You mentioned when you were talking about teaching the kids this, that, and the other, you mentioned horses. I guess you got to get horses from somewhere. They don't just appear.
Yeah, we've been really blessed to have some great horses donated over the years. We've raised up several of our own, and I think horses and therapy are just go hand in hand, and we do horsemanship, and we also work all of our cows off of horseback. So the boys are learning how to rope and doctor and work. Yeah, they're out there cowboying, and I tell them, I think the best therapy is trying to communicate to something that doesn't understand your language to try to do a common goal. There's a whole lot of education that gets built up in that. So yeah, horsemanship and cattle work is a big part of our program.
Well, I guess you would be a part of that. I mean, you've got the hat and the boots, so you probably know something about it.
Well, I'm learning more all the time. If that so, I always tell the boy, it ain't fair of me to ask them to do something I'm not willing to do. So yeah, I get to spend quite a bit of time on horseback and teaching them, and the boys are also involved in training and breaking the horses, and so I'm help them. And I've got a fantastic wrangler, Cody Hoss. He's our wrangler out there that runs our farm and ranch, and he's a whale of a horseman and does equine with the boys on a regular basis.
It's incredible, man. It's incredible. So, God's your employer. That's who you report to.
Yes, sir. Yeah. No, and that's say the biggest thing that we can say is we have the power to love these kids because God's loved us first, and that's really the focal point of everything that we do. Is we can teach a lot of good habits, but only Christ can change the character of somebody, and so we just try to make that introduction as easy and often as possible.
And you're like a school teacher, man. My mama taught school all of her life, pretty much. I mean, she retired when she was 74, so that, wasn't all of her life. But, and before cell phones, the phone would ring on the wall, and it would be somebody, going, just driving through the area, and I just remembered, and then do a, you were my favorite teacher kind of a story. And that's what you're after here. Those have to be few and far between. Because if you got 11 kids, you're not going to have 11 success stories, I'm thinking.
Well, it always depends on how you judge success. And that's really what we've said is like, if we have a kid that left here, they knew what it meant to have a relationship with Jesus. They knew that they're at a place that loved them unconditionally. That's been success. And if they know that they got a place that they can call that will always answer, that's success. Because we continue to counsel and work with our guys I've get calls from boys that we've had through there. They're like, Michael, I'm a dad for the first time and I'm scared to death. And I say, welcome to the club. So.
Yeah. What is a success, right? I had a kid live with me off the streets in Oklahoma City for just a little while, and he has gone on to do some good things. He's still around. He's not a kid anymore. His last home before he came to me was his foster parents put him in a dog run. So not real nice facilities is still pretty good for a lot of these guys.
Yeah. No, and that's far too common as well. We've had a lot of kids that have bounced around a lot of homes and kids that have been locked up just like that. So good for you for bringing him in.
This is Rose and Ben about to sign off. If anybody wants to follow up on this, we got a phone number, or can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so we're pretty active on Facebook. We've also got our website at freedomgatesbr.org, and phone number be 580-829-1212.
Mike Simpson, Freedom Gates Boys Ranch. Rosie and Ben signing off. Join us next week for the morning show, the late morning show.